right, you lot. This game's just a cash grab. You've said it, you've read it, you've probably commented it under a trailer for a free-to-play shooter that dares to sell your fucking skin. Then you log back into Call of Duty, where you paid 70 quid for the game, 16 quid for a dog in hoodie, 8 quid for an operator voice pack, and 25 quid for a battle pass you didn't finish cause grind curves rigged to make you buy XP tokens. That's not a cash grab though, right? That's AAA quality. That's just how industry works. Bullshit. You've been brainwashed. This ain't just about prices, it's about where your money actually goes. And today, we're dragging you behind curtain and breaking down true cost at game development. From janitor to CEO, from server bills to storefront scams. Because when an indie game like Splitgate sells a skin, you cry foul. But when Activision sells you your dignity back in a 20 quid bundle, you call it content. You think game dev's just a bunch of lads in hoodies smashing keyboards and arguing over reload speeds? Wrong. That's like saying a car factory is just a bloke with rent. Making a game is building a full-blown ecosystem from scratch, then keeping bastard alive while everyone screams at it. You've got designers crafting mechanics, level designers shaping flow, writers stitching storylines, artists pumping out assets, animators giving it all life, and coders wiring it together like a bomb that might go off if someone forgets semicolon. That's just creative core. You want it to move? Now you need riggers, technical artists, shader devs, physics engineers, UI UX designers, VFX artists, sound designers, voice directors, and a composer who's probably crying in corner cause fifth boss theme's still in titting. Then you need QA, and not just one tester with a checklist, dozens, maybe hundreds. Functional QA, compliance testers, console certification, accessibility checks, localization QA, all are playing the same broken mission for 87 times while players on Twitter go, "Why didn't they catch this?" Course, Karen, they did. You just skipped patch notes. Now throw in producers, ones herding this chaos into milestone, booking meetings, clearing blockers, updating burn chart. If a game gets finished, it's usually cause producer dragged it there kicking and screaming with a calendar in one hand and a taser in other. Behind them at support troops, HR sorting holidays and mental health breakdowns, recruiters hunting down that one shader specialist who hadn't already been poached by Riot, finance teams processing contractor invoices, payroll, and every "can we expense this" Slack message ever sent. Legal departments clearing licenses, trademarks, international compliance, and making sure no one names a boss character something that'll get game banned in Germany. IT teams building rigs, fixing busted servers, keeping version control from collapsing during crunch. Customer service preparing for storm, community managers prepping apology tweet. Oh, and don't forget execs, studio directors, publishers, shareholders, all demanding growth charts and player retention metrics, while arguing over whether dogs should have blue or red goggles. Because yeah, someone had a meeting about that. Probably 3. Every single one of these roles has a wage, a desk, a laptop that costs more than your car, and they're all on payroll for months or years before a single copy is sold, before a single bundle hits store, before anyone makes a penny back. So when you look at a 200-person studio like Splitgate's, you're not just looking at 200 developers, you're looking at 200 salaries, plus contractors, plus outsourced support, plus every system and service that keeps lights on. That's not a team, that's a fucking economy. Let's get diving straight into wages, by role, in real cash. No guesswork, just raw numbers, an ugly truth. Junior devs aren't paid in exposure. In UK, a starting gameplay programmer's earning around $28,000 a year. That's $35,000. And that's if they're lucky enough to not live in London with rent-seat souls and bank accounts alike. A mid-level dev? Around $45,000 to $55,000, $56,000 to $69,000. Senior engineers pushing closer to 70,000 quid or more, $88,000. But wait, tech specialists like network engineers or rendering devs, they breach 90,000 quid, $113,000 in top studios. That's not greed, that's cost of not launching with bugs that turn players into rubber banding kangaroos. Artists? Same drill. Junior 3D modelers might pull 25,000 to 30,000 quid, $31,000 to $38,000. Seniors around 50,000 to 60,000 quid are $63,000 to $75,000, and technical artists who stop game looking like it's held together with chewing gum are pulling closer to 70,000 quid, $88,000, if they know the pipeline from the backside. Designers, 30 to 40,000 quid, $38,000 to $50,000 for juniors trying to balance a weapon we aren't getting flamed on Reddit, and around 55 to 65,000 quid, $69,000 to $82,000 for seniors in charge of system design, progression, and every mechanic you'll call broken while mashing your controller. Animators, sound designers, VFX artists, all in that same $30,000 to $70,000 spread, $38,000 to $88,000, depending on skill, experience, and whether they're working at an indie or AAA meat grinder. QA though, that's where it gets depressing. Entry-level QA testers are barely scraping $22,000 to $26,000 quid. That's $27,000 to $33,000, despite being ones that spot bugs before you screech about them online. Even senior QA roles often cap at $35,000 to $40,000 quid, $44,000 to $50,000, unless they're managing teams or working in compliance. Now multiply all that by a couple hundred people. That's millions in wages every year for all even ships. And that's assuming no benefits, no healthcare, no pension, no sick days, no bloody office tea. Then tack on directors, execs, and department heads. 90,000 to 150,000 plus quid. It's $113,000 to $190,000, depending on size, scope, and whether they're a founder or just a very good PowerPoint juggler. Some C-suite leads are clearing 200,000 plus quid. $250,000, especially in publisher-backed outfits. But they're not norm, they're top brass. Most people in game dev are getting paid just enough to survive crunch, rent, and Deliveroo during patch week. And these wages are static during delays. If a game takes 6 months longer, that's 6 months of every salary bleeding cash. That's why games either cut scope, delay, or shove out unfinished messes. Not 'cause devs don't care, but 'cause money has to come from somewhere. And it sure as hell ain't coming from hopes and dreams. You want to know where the rest of money goes? Into fucking void that's tech infrastructure, servers, tools, bandwidth, version control, crash tracking, analytics, an endless stream of middlemen software that keeps a multiplayer game from shitting itself every 5 seconds. Every online match you've ever played, that data travelled through a dedicated game server, maybe one rented through AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, costing anywhere from 10p to 60p per hour. That's 13 cents to 75 cents, depending on region, load, and tick rate. Multiply that by thousands of instances across multiple continents, 24/7 uptime, live events, sudden player spikes. Now your indie shooter's quietly leaking 30,000 to 100,000 quid a month, $38,000 to $126,000, just to stay online. That's not including back-end systems, auth servers, player profiles, matchmaking logic, leaderboards, progression, battle pass timers, inventory sync. These aren't luxuries, they're requirements. And they need their own engineers, database admins, and redundancy set up so that when a million people log in after an update, game don't burst into flames and take the login screen with it. Those engineers aren't cheap either. Many of them are ex-finance or security techs, commanding 70,000 to 100,000 quid salaries. $88,000 to $126,000, and worth every penny if it means your account don't vanish 'cause server coughed mid-sync. Want to deploy patches? That's version control tools, Jenkins builds, CDN hosting to push 80GB day one updates to 14 regions without bricking connections. You pay for storage, transfer speeds, traffic volume. You pay for download spikes. And when things go wrong, you pay support contracts to third-party tech teams just to explain what error code means. That's before you've touched anti-cheat, another third-party service often licensed monthly, per player or per session. Add voice chat, that's another plugin with its own cost. Stats tracking, plugin. Crash analytics, plugin. You see it theme here? And none of this is one and done. It's ongoing, persistent, a never-ending digital bleed. Even when no one's playing at 4 AM, you're still paying to keep Heartbeat alive. And when things spike, when game gets featured by a streamer or goes viral on TikTok, or it's a new country, you don't make more money instantly, but you do get a bigger server bill. That's trap. You succeed, and it costs you more. And Every studio has to pay for the same boring crap every other business does. And it adds up faster than you think. You want 200 people working under one roof? Or even remotely with top-tier machines? You're paying for electricity. Not just to run lights and radiators. I'm talking rows of power-hungry dev PCs, multiple iron servers, studio lighting, render farms, VR stations, test kits, network infrastructure, charging docks, bloody coffee machines, everything. A decent-sized studio could be burning through 80,000 to 15,000 quid a month. That's $10,000 to $19,000 just in electricity. Add water, heating, cooling, waste management, internet, enterprise-grade fibre with redundancy backups so your dev builds don't drop mid-commit, and you're closer to 25,000 quid plus per month. $25,000. And that's on low end. Then you got rent. Central London, San Francisco, Toronto, any places tech talents want to live. Good luck finding a studio-sized office under 20,000 quid a month, $25,000. And that's if you're not paying business rates, insurance, and some kind of premium cost building has a foosball table. Now double it if studio needs multiple floors, recording booths, or mocap facilities. Triple it if they want to run their own server racks or have a secure dev area with console partner access. Because that requires compliance with Sony, Microsoft and Nintendo's dev standards, which means extra firewalls, locked cabinets, physical security, and even more IT overhead. Remote studios still get it too. You think giving devs 3,000 quid PCs, multiple monitors, test kits and ultra-fast home internet subsidies are cheap? Now multiply that by 100 plus, and you've still got to manage it. Licensing VPNs, cloud access, remote work security, and data redundancy backups for code and builds. You don't just press save and pray, you're backing up terabytes daily. Then throw on building insurance, equipment insurance, liability coverage, cybersecurity protocols, coffee, snacks, staff socials, team lunches, onboarding kits, HR training days, and, 500 quid per year you're paying per employee for every subscription-based software tool. Jira, Confluence, Miro, Slack, Zoom, Adobe CC, Maya, Houdini, Unity plugins, Unreal Marketplace assets, Git LFS storage, localization tracking tools, fucking lot. Death by 1,000 SaaS cuts. And this is all before a single trailer hits YouTube, before its store goes live, before its first tweet says wishlist now. It's cost of existing in a professional space, and it's merciless. You either plan for it, or it buries you. We're not even done. Want to know why no game can just use that cool song in the trailer? Or why your favourite gun skin disappeared between betas? You can't just throw a song into your trailer, slap a logo on a t-shirt, or let your artist sneak in a little anime reference on a billboard texture. Every asset, every font, sound, plugin, third-party tool, UI pack, character likeness, and a bit of background music comes with a license. And licenses aren't just yeah or no, they're a minefield of contracts, fees, regional restrictions, usage clauses, and renewal terms that don't make your brain melt. Let's say you want to use a real song in your game trailer, something punchy, bit of rock or hip hop. Cool. First you need to sync rates for composition, that's one license. Then master rates for actual recording, that's another. And then you need to clarify if it's being used for marketing, in-game, or on title screen. Each one of those, separate terms, separate fees. A well-known track could run you anywhere from 20,000 to 250,000 quid, $25,000 to $315,000 or more, depending on how long you want it, how many countries it's being shown in, and whether rates holder's having a good day or wants to fuck you for fun. Now imagine using asset store models or plugins. You got marketplace packs for foliage, buildings, visual scripting, inventory system. A bunch of them might be free for prototyping, but when it's time to ship, surprise, that freeway attribution license don't cover commercial use. Or it limits how many copies you can sell. Or it's locked to one developer account and you just onboarded a new junior dev who now technically violates terms. Sound effects? Half at ones online are stolen from other games, and you'll get DMCA'd if you don't vet sources. Fonts? Yeah, fonts. One dev lost the Steam listing because they used a commercial font in the UI without a proper license. You think that wouldn't happen to you? Good luck when a paralegal at Monetype decides to go hunting. Then there's engine licensing. Unreal Engine is free, until you cross 800,000 quid in gross revenue, $1 million. Then Epic takes 5% of everything unless you've struck a separate deal. Unity tried to charge devs per install until Backlash nearly burnt entire platform to ground. And if you're building your own engine, now you're paying internal engineers 100,000 quid plus. That's $126,000 per year just to reinvent wheel that already has 2 decades of bug fixes in it. Add middleware, WIs for audio, Fmod for music, Havoc for physics, Simply Gone for asset optimization. Every one of those has commercial licensing fees, sometimes per game, sometimes per platform, sometimes based on your revenue. You want crossplay? Now you're integrating multiple SDKs. Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Epic, Discord, and every single one has certification and legal requirements. Miss a clause and you might lose your listing, delay launch, or get blacklisted. And then there's legal compliance. ESRB and PEGI ratings cost money. GDPR compliance costs money. Age-gate systems, parental controls, and even loot box transparency laws, especially in Europe, all cost money. You need lawyers, real lawyers. UK-based legal teams for commercial licensing will charge 200 to 500 quid an hour. It's $250 to $630. IP attorneys can be worse. If your character design looks too much like someone else's, you might have to bin it after a month of work, or pay to license a look you didn't mean to copy. All of this has to be done before the game ships, and again when updates, events, and seasonal content drop. You don't license once, you license forever, or you get sued. That's choice. Now let's get grim. You made game, you paid staff, you've survived legal gauntlet, and now you're ready to sell. But guess what? You're not keeping money, because marketing and distribution don't just take a slice, they turn all pie into crumbs and bill you for mess. Let's start with marketing budget. For a AAA game, it's not rare to spend just as much marketing thing as you did making it. A 100 million quid game could have a 50 to 100 million quid marketing budget attached to it, $63 to $126 million. That covers trailers, influencer deals, live stream events, social campaigns, billboards, paid Twitter trends, TikTok dances, dev interview roadshows, sponsored content, ad slots during esports tournaments, and branded Doritos. And yeah, all of that is planned months or even years in advance by an entire department whose only job is to sell the game as if it's second coming of Christ. Even a mid-tier game or indie with ambitions needs to push hard. Small trailers don't cut through noise. You're fighting for attention against Fortnite collabs and Call of Duty dog skins. Marketing firms charge anywhere from $5,000 to $100,000 plus, depending on scope, $6,000 to $126,000. Influencer deals? $500 to $10,000 quid per creator, $630 to $12,000. And that's assuming they don't want rev share. A showcase slot in something like Summer Games Fest, you're looking at tens of thousands minimum, sometimes 6 figures if you want headline billing. It's not a meritocracy, it's pay to be seen. Then there's physical distribution, if you're still selling box copies. Welcome to world of razor-thin margins. You manufacture discs and boxes. You pay for plastic, printing, packaging. You ship them in bulk to retail stores. You pay for shelf space. You pay fees to distributors. And then retailer? They take a massive cut. That 60 quid game you see on shelf, Dev might be getting 20 to 25 quid, $25 to $32, after everyone else gets their share. And if game don't sell, retailers return stock or demand heavy discounts. You still eat cost. Digital's no better, selling on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox or Nintendo, they take a 30% cut off top. Always. You sell a game for 60 quid, you're keeping 42 quid, $53. But wait, payment processor fees, currency conversion, VAT or sales tax depending on region. Now you're closer to 36 to 38 quid, $45 to $48 in actual earnings. And that's before any cuts for publishers, partners or code dev studios that helped build game. Suddenly, that record-breaking launch don't feel so big when it's carved up by platform tax. And don't forget Storefront rules. You can't just slap your game up. You need approval. You need ratings. You need platform compliance. Miss one detail in your build and you could be pushed back weeks. That's lost momentum, lost revenue, lost relevance. And you don't get a second first impression, especially not when your competitors are spending millions making sure their trailer's unskippable on every platform you try to list on. So yeah, you made a game, you sold it, what you keep? It's whatever's left after marketing gouges you, platforms take the cut, and retail shoves you off shelf cause dog skin in Warzone went viral that week. That's why every game now has its own launcher, why Epic tries to push direct purchases, why studios encourage buying currency packs in their own website. They're trying to dodge platform tax, trying to claw back pennies in a system where house always wins. Because if you don't fight for every inch of margin, you won't have one left. Now you're starting to see it. Cash don't flow in, it trickles, and it evaporates on contact with out corporate. That's why free-to-play games are built different, why Splitgate has to sell skins, why Genshin and Fortnite monetize ways they do. It's not a cash grab, it's survival. Unless, of course, you're Activision. Splitgate sells skins to survive. Call of Duty sells skins because they know you'll buy them even after you've paid full price. That's different. One's funding a live service game we aren't charging up front, others triple dipping on every player like it's sport. Free-to-play games like Splitgate 2 don't get luxury at a 70 quid entry fee. They have to give you all game for naught and hope to hell you care enough to drop a tenner on a skin or a battle pass. And that skin? That's not just some pretty pixel, it's paying someone's wages. It's funding service. It's keeping pipeline moving so they can afford to keep game alive next month. Because without it, there's no backup plan, no publisher safety net. Either monetize top 5% of players or entire project flatlines. So yeah, they sell bundles. Yeah, they rotate shops. Yeah, they use FOMO. Because they have to. Not because they're greedy, but because they've got rent to pay, salaries to cover, cloud costs that will cripple them if they get it wrong. A well-balanced store keeps games sustainable. A fair battle pass pays for new content. And if they do it right, players actually get value. Time investment turns into reward, and spending money feels optional, not mandatory. But with companies like Activision, it's not about sustainability. It's about maximising revenue from players they already captured. You paid 70 quid for the game. Great. Now you're at store. Buy this 16 quid skin bundle. Buy this XP boost. Buy this gun blueprint that lets you flex on your mates with an inspect animation they can't turn. And if you don't like it, tough. It's time gated. It's seasonal. It's never coming back. Better buy it now. Better spend. Better keep up. And players do, because they're locked into ecosystem. Their friends are there. Their progress is there. Their muscle memory is there. So when next overpriced operator bundle drops, it's not a purchase. It's a habit, a reflex. And Activision knows it. That's why they rotate content so fast. That's why menus shove store tabs in your face. That's why unlock system is rigged around grind or cash. Splitgate can't afford to do that. If they tried, players would vanish. So they walk a fine line, trying to make enough without pushing it too far. They're judged on fairness because they have to be. COD gets away with it because it's already too big to fail. That's green line, when monetization becomes less about keeping lights on and more about squeezing players dry because shareholders want better quota. Same store structure in two games, one's a lifeline, other's a weapon. So yeah, a free-to-play game needs stores, but don't confuse need with exploitation. Because difference in system, it's intent behind it. Now let's draw that line properly. There's a moment, an exact point, where monetization stops being a business model and starts being a bloody chokehold. That's greed line. And once you know what it looks like, you'll see it in every store tab, every battle pass, every limited time bundle that just so happens to reappear 3 weeks later. Line's simple. If a game needs monetization to survive server upkeep, live content, actual wages, that's business. That's fine. No one's against paying for value. You want to support a dev team that gave you a free game with smooth netcode and fun gameplay? Throwing them a tenner for a decent skin into Exploitation. It's appreciation. It's modern gaming's tip jar. But when you've already paid full price, 60 quid, 70 quid, 90 quid for a deluxe edition, and game still locks cosmetics behind time gates, bundles, battle passes, stacked with filler, that's not supporting a game. That's being farmed. That's not helping a team stay afloat. That's feeding a corporate monstrosity that cuts a QA to survive on budget while selling same 5 skeleton skins in Halloween colours every year. Line is crossed when monetization is built to manufacture pain points, when grind is bloated, progress is throttled, and convenience is sold back to you piece by piece. When unlocks aren't earned but teased, flashed in front of your face before being shoved behind a paywall or hidden in a bundle full of shite you didn't want. Line is crossed when gameplay is built to drive engagement metrics, not fun. when progression is time-gated to boost player retention stats, and store refreshes are tuned to trigger FOMO, when system isn't designed to reward your time, but to undermine it just enough to make your purchase look tempting. And don't get it twisted, it's not just cosmetics. Call of Duty started selling blueprints that come with busted attachment combos that couldn't be earned in-game. Genshin Impact has 5-star weapons with drop rates so low you might as well direct debit my or your next 3 paychecks. Fortnite? They'll charge 15 quid for a collab skin and call it a bargain cause at least you're not gambling. Even games that start fair get warped. Stores get more aggressive, bundles get more fragmented, premium currencies get more confusing. Suddenly you're buying 2,000 coins when bundle costs 2,400. You're not being sold content, you're being sold spending habits. Meanwhile, Splitgate 2's out here trying to monetize in a way that keeps them in business. Skins that don't affect gameplay, battle passes you can grind, a store that rotates but don't insult your intelligence, and people still complain, because they've been conditioned to expect monetization to feel like hostage negotiation. When it don't, it feels weird. That's how low bar is now. So greed line isn't about whether a game charges you, it's about why it charges you. Is it funding real development, or is it just mining engagement stats for shareholder spreadsheets? That's a question every player should ask before opening the wallet, because most studios, they're not greedy, they're just trying to eat. But ones who are greedy, they're eating you. You're not paying for pixels, you're not paying for skins, you're not paying for battle passes or cutscenes or even game itself. Not really. You're paying for people, for months, sometimes years, of work, for 3 AM build failures, for animators crunching on the third coffee, for QA testers running same broken mission for 10th time with a bug that keeps crashing the dev kit. You're paying for servers that let you matchmake at midnight, back-end engineers that fix login queue you never knew about, support team that reply to your angry ticket with a polite, "We're investigating." You're paying for security, for compliance, for localization teams that made sure subtitles in Polish weren't accidentally calling someone a turnip. You're paying for legal team that stopped your favourite skin from getting all game banned in Australia. You're paying for all of it. And when you don't, someone else is. Either studio eats cost and goes under, or another part of the game gets sacrificed to keep budget alive. That's how we end up with games that ship unfinished. That's how we get rubber banding servers, empty roadmaps, dev teams too burned to patch properly. It's not incompetence, it's economics. And the moment we pretend otherwise, we let wrong people take blame. So next time you see a 16 quid skin in Splitgate, don't just ask, why are they charging for this? Ask, what are they paying for? Because I guarantee you it's not a yacht, it's a wage, a server rack, a motion capture rig that didn't explode mid-recording. And next time you see a 16 quid skin in Call of Duty, ask the same question, what are they paying for? Is it development or dividends? Is it better servers or better stock performance? Because when you're buying from a company that already made billions, you're not supporting a game, you're supporting a system designed to milk you, mock you, and thank you for your loyalty with recycled skin and a menu full of ads. Games are expensive, that's true, but it's not price tag that's problem, it's where money goes. So now you know, top to bottom, inside out, what it costs to make a game and what it means when someone tells you it's too expensive. It's not expensive, it's under fire from all sides. Real question isn't, why does it cost money? It's, why are we still letting wrong people decide who gets paid? Now join Discord, follow on X, consider a channel membership if you want more of this kind of savage insight. Smash like, hit subscribe, drop your comments and questions below. Just don't whinge about microtransactions unless you made it to end of this video. And I'll see you next time, you magnificent